to St. Francis TV. My name is Deb Royals-Mazurka, and I'm so excited to be with you today. We have some really special guests to share with you our annual Fair Trade Market news, how the event happens, how you can be involved, when it's going to take place, and a little bit of the history of the Fair Trade Market. Before we begin, though, I'm going to turn to Becky Colley and ask that you introduce yourselves to us and tell us a little bit about your connection to fair trade, as well as your connection to St. Francis.
Sure. Hi, my name is Becky Colley, and I'm on staff here at St. Francis. I work in the Justice and Peace Office, and one of my roles is to coordinate the Fair Trade Market. Actually, it's the Fair Trade and Alternative Gifts Market.
Awesome. And another special guest, and another Becky. Can you introduce yourself and give us a little bit about your background with the fair trade?
Sure. My name is Becky Stanbridge. I represent Lumago Designs, and I've been part of the Fair Trade Bazaar since 2017. So we've been doing it for 5 years now.
Beautiful. Oftentimes people will say, so what does the fair trade market, what does that mean? When we call something fair trade, can you give us a little more definition or context behind fair trade?
Sure. Fair trade is an economic system that functions in developing countries that lifts up farmers and producers and artisans so that they can compete in a global marketplace. It ensures fair wages, safe working conditions, and reasonable work hours, and it ensures it's absent any child labor or any forced labor of any kind, like slavery, which still exists in developing countries. So it ensures that children go to school rather than work, and it promotes like whole families instead of individuals. So it's really a beautiful, beautiful thing. In addition to those, it prohibits discrimination of any kind, and it promotes gender equity and sustainable practices. So it cares for God's creation as well. And these are all things that we in the U.S. have come to expect in our work and our workplaces, right? But in developing countries, that's just not the reality. Like in our world today, many people lack basic needs and human rights. Millions of people live on less than $2 a day. That is just, I mean, think about that, $2 a day. And many are dying in poverty, and they're fleeing their homelands in search of a better life for themselves and their families, you know? And so one of our vendors here, in addition to Becky, one of our vendors here has a motto, and the motto is empowering women, preserving families, and preventing orphans. And that is the reality in some of these countries. And like we have child labor laws, right? But those don't exist in many countries. And if they do exist, they're not enforced. But that's not about bad governments or bad families. That's about the need. And so these children can contribute to the family income, and then they can stay. So they don't, you know, starvation is the other side of that, right? Or leaving the family home. And our market, we, you know, thousands of miles away, can do something about that.
So I'm so glad you said a little bit about our market there. Can you tell me a little bit about the history of the fair trade market?
Sure.
Here at St. Francis?
Yeah, so it started in 2009, and I have records actually that go back to 2010. And that, you know, so those records indicate that the generosity of this parish was incredible, and I think the market pulled in about $14,000. In 2019, our market pulled in $45,000. I mean, that's just incredible. All those people that benefit from the generosity of this parish. It's just amazing.
So you're one of our vendors, Lumago Designs, of which I am wearing a beautiful piece around my neck here and also a bracelet. I'm going to turn to Becky Stanbridge And if you could share with us what is Lumago Designs and its history and why it's so important to lift up this organization.
Okay, thank you so much, Deb. So I work with Lumago Designs, and Becky here is talking so much truth about the people that I work with. This is exactly the situation that they are in. I'll tell you a little secret. Lumago means to blossom in Tagalog, which is the native language in the Philippines. And the ladies chose that word because they feel like they blossomed out of the Dumaguete dump site. So the community that we work with lives surrounding the city's dump site, which is on the outskirts of our city of Dumaguete. So Dumaguete is a really beautiful city. It actually draws in a lot of tourists. It's a university town, but it has a dirty secret, and that is the dump site. And this community was actually drawn to the dump site so that they could earn money from collecting and scavenging on the dump site. So they're taking in all these toxins from the dump. They collect things like plastic bottles and scrap metal, and they're lucky if they earn, like you said, $2 or $3 a day doing that. Sometimes it would be nothing. So Lumago started when there was a typhoon that came through 10 years ago, and a social worker came in and taught the mothers how to make paper beads as an alternative income so that they could rebuild. And they just kept making these beautiful pieces, coming up with new designs, and Lumago blossomed out of the dump site, and we became a social enterprise to give these women a fair living wage so that they can work from home, look after the kids. They're not on the dump scavenging. A lot of them have respiratory problems as well from being on the dump, and that's going to be ongoing. But by giving them a fair living wage, they can put their kids through school, get a good education, and that's really what it's about. It's the next generation and giving them the opportunity to lift themselves out of poverty. So rather than giving them a hand out, you're giving them a hand up.
So over the last 10 years, I've got to imagine there's been some kind of incredible impact to this community because of Lumago Designs. Whether it's the landscape has shifted. Can you tell me, or the children going back to the schools, or mother, you shared a little bit of moms being able to stay at home. Are there other ways that the community has been impacted by the good work of Lumago?
Yeah, there's multiple things. I mean, the support of Lumago, the living wage, we also do savings programs, social security, we've got interest-free loans, we do workshops on being financially savvy. Also, we intercept the trash that we use to make the products, we intercept that before it gets to the dump site, so it's not actually going to the dump. Things like we get donations of magazines, plastic bottles. We actually buy leather and things from second-hand stores because there's so many clothes that get sent from Goodwill to the Philippines, to developing countries, and it's just sort of dumped there and people sell it for. So we turn that into jewelry as well. So yeah, we're actually protecting it from going to the dump as well.
So the lives of the people in Dumaguete have been impacted, as well as the lives of people all around the world who as artisans, their work is represented at fair trade markets, like the one we host annually here at St. Francis. Can you share with me, Becky Colley, why is it important to be an educated shopper, and why is it important to make sure that people know that the fair trade market is not a charity?
Well, when I think about shopping, it's about being a responsible shopper, understanding that there are people behind every one of our purchases, not just fair trade purchases, but all of our purchases. And so, and what that does for us, it calls us to discipleship. It calls us to recognize that we are responsible for each other. We are all really responsible for all, is what Pope St. John Paul II used to be, loved to say, right? And having a fair trade market here is about giving us all an opportunity to be disciples, to live the gospel. Jesus' greatest commandment, love God above all things, love your neighbor as yourself. For Jesus, neighbor was everyone. And that's what it should be for us as well. And I think our market shows, and I think because it flourishes so well and so beautifully here at St. Francis, I think people understand that, you know. Jesus' parable in Matthew 25, you know, the least of these, right? The notion, the last judgment, the Bible calls it. You know, Jesus is calling us to reach out to people that are hungry and thirsty and naked and imprisoned and sick and the stranger. And that's what we're able to do through this market. And it's not charity. It's not charity because we're participating in a just economic system. We are we're helping people with basic human rights like education and health care and you know, adequate shelter and you know, the dignity of work. Those are part of our Catholic social teaching, right? So it's not just our foundation of Scripture, but it's our foundation, our beautiful foundation, and what our church teaches, you know. And like Becky said, it's not a handout. It's a handout. You know, we are really helping people lift themselves up. And that's justice, you know, that's what this is about, love in action. Solidarity, too, is another one. Solidarity isn't just, you know, a vague feeling of compassion or distress for someone who finds themselves in harm's way. It's a conviction, right, to the good of that person and the good of that community. So it's about educating ourselves and then doing something once we know, which is what everybody in this parish does at our market. I mean, it's just great stuff.
It is it's so beautiful, and I think around this time of year where there's a flurry of purchasing and a flurry of commercialized things going on, how wonderful and how fortunate we are to stand in solidarity with people all over the world who, because we do believe in the dignity of work, that this work that is taking place, it makes so much sense to understand that this is beautiful artisan craft work. These are things that people can purchase, and by so doing, they're also supporting and standing in solidarity and being smart about where they spend their dollars. Can you tell me the dates for this year's market?
Sure.
The days, the times?
Sure, I'd love to. So it begins on November 12th, where our TFS students shop all day long, and anybody else really. It's open. But and then it continues for Saturday the 13th in the afternoon, and then around Mass, and then it's closed during Mass, but around Mass times, and then all day Sunday around our Masses as well. So yeah, and this year, well, last year, you know, because of COVID, we adapted and we became a virtual, which, oh my gosh, Becky, that was a lot of work for our vendors to do that, but they responded so beautifully. I mean, it was
definitely
great.
worth it. It was great to be able to stay online.
So this year we're doing kind of a hybrid method. So we have a virtual part of the market, we have in person as well. And we have a kickoff for our virtual market, which is on Wednesday evening, the 10th. So a couple days before the market starts. And we're going to give away shopping sprees, raffle them off, and then, yay, which we're going to buy from our vendors. And then we also are going to have some giveaways at the in-person market too. So yeah, we're excited.
I'm a little curious, like, what vendors and from where, can you give us a sense of what we might find at the market?
So we call it alternative gifts and alternative gifts market because all of our vendors are not fair trade, but they all, what's the word I'm looking for? Encompass all the tenets of what it means to be fair trade, which is, you know, like I went through the fair wages and the no child labor and those kinds of things. So we have a local artisan who is from Mexico, so we have this Mexican religious art at our market, and we have Holy Land. We have a couple. We have one virtual and one in person that are going to do olive wood carvings from the Holy Land. So that's a nice addition. We haven't had that for a number of years. We have somebody from Guatemala. It's called Paula Villages, and he works with a community in Guatemala, and they make beautiful scarves. We have the Mighty River Project, which works with ladies from Uganda, and that's the one with the mission of empowering women, preserving families and preventing orphans. And then we have Bull City Fair Trade, which is an actual fair trade store in Durham. So that's the other thing about fair trade. Our regular grocery stores are picking up these products, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, there's Teeter, Publix. I mean, so you can shop fair trade every day of every year. Larry's Coffee, which I love, I drink it every morning. So then Bull City is, and they have been here since my record, so they used to be called One World Market, but they've changed their name. And then we have 700 Rivers, which is a new parishioner who started making soaps, or her buying soap from a community. I can't remember what country, but she works with, and let's see. And then Lumago, and then we have Gumcha, which makes, I can talk forever about that. And then we have Our Children's Place, which works locally with incarcerated parents and children of incarcerated parents to connect them in a special way. So there it is.
So, friends, I encourage everyone, as an option for shopping this year, to please visit our fair trade market. It sounds like we have a plethora of variety, including the beautiful Lumago Designs work. I hope that you'll support, and I hope that this episode has been educational and helping us all understand that dignity of work is imperative, and loving one another is imperative, and this is just another way to do it. Take care, friends. Thanks so much.